They're all saving one, or most of the Hampshire fielders are saving one. Somerset need one run. It's Edwards to Hildreth. He's there and bowls Hildreth, and he gets the run away through the onside, and Somerset have won. They've won the Royal London One Day Cup.
Hello there, you're listening to Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. This is the Somerset Cricket Podcast. My name's Ian Shepherd. Joining me this evening, I've got Dan Kingdom, the voice of cricket on BBC Radio Somerset, and live in the roll-off end of the pavilion, journalist, broadcaster, and current cricketer of about 75% of the South West recreational teams, Harry Everett.
Good evening, all.
Harry, thanks for popping along. Well, I suppose we all thought this Kent performance might happen. We didn't want it to, but was it slightly inevitable that it was all a bit after the Lord Mayor's show? If you weren't aware, Somerset went down by an innings and plenty down at Canterbury last week. Batting first, making a not very 202 all out. In reply, Kent 492 all out, and then Somerset 139 all out again. The highlight of which was some long handle from Sajid Khan. What do you think then, Gibber? You were there. At what point did they mentally want to be on that bus?
Oh, I think halfway through the Kent innings, I think they really weren't up for it. And Jason Kerr admitted as much when I interviewed him at the end of the second day, because Lewis Goldsworthy I did on the first day, who batted very well, it must be said. Shame he didn't make his 100. But no, I mean, the intensity had gone. And I said on commentary, Jason Kerr said they should be playing for their personal pride, which is quite right. But it's actually much more motivating to be playing for your team than it is for yourself. And there wasn't, in all honesty, anything really for Somerset to play for. And I'm afraid it showed.
Yeah, I mean, talking about playing for yourself and playing for the team, they do sometimes go hand in glove in particularly in Championship cricket. I mean,
I think Gibber makes a really good point there. But you play for your team. It's a team sport, isn't it? Cricket's one of those weird sports where it's a team sport, but individual success helps the team. And I mean, Somerset got this habit of bringing the best out of individuals against them. You know, normally it's first class, personal best at Taunton, but Hamidullah Kadri getting runs against us just sort of sums it up, and it was an after Lord's Mayor show performance, wasn't it? But I chatted to Craig Overton at the awards do on Friday night, and he said to me, it's one of the worst he can remember Somerset bowling, and he said even himself, he said he admittedly bowled really poorly, and he said no one bowled well, no one had a good day, and that summed it up really. And once the bowling was really poor, then the second innings batting was pretty shoddy again.
What do you make of it, Dan? I mean, Harry's just pretty much summed it up as best you can, really.
Yeah, I think we weren't a million miles away with the bat. I mean, 202 is not great, but I think we were saying 250, 300 would have been decent. And with our bowling attack, you'd expect us to be able to stay in the game. But unfortunately, Kent were able to run away with it. The tone was set by that opening partnership, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
It's a real disappointment. We could have gone fifth with a win of that game, and would have ended the season on a high note. Really, I think fifth would have been good after the season we had.
But would that have been
fighting relegation?
Fifth, would that have been flattering? Would that have been almost covering over the cracks a little bit?
Well, I think it would have been important.
I don't think we deserved to be fifth, did we?
It would have been important to remember that we remain flawed. But it would have been a good way to end the season, be confident going into next season. But it would have been, obviously, it's important to remember, that there's still a lot to work on. It's not an excuse, but I think the fact that there were only 2 days after the Northants game, whereas Kent did get an extra day because their game finished early against Hampshire, maybe made a difference. We obviously had to work very, very hard for 4 days to get the win against Northants. So there was definitely an element of that come down and having a short turnaround. I think those two potentially combined to make it difficult for us. But yeah, it's not an excuse for sure. We didn't bowl or bat well enough. I didn't see any of the second innings, but it sounds like we just collapsed in a heap, basically. Lammonby aside, who seemed to try his best but couldn't push on, as he's often done this season. But obviously it's difficult when you've got wickets falling at the other end.
I think you made a good point with the turnaround, though, don't you? Like there wasn't much in between, and that's why it's even more surprising that we bowled so many of the same bowlers. I thought Sonny Baker would have a go. I chatted to him at the Northlands game, and I said, "Oh, surely you'll be playing next week, Anthony." He said, "Oh, yeah, I hope so." I mean, Jack Brooks with his sore back didn't think he was actually going to play, but I mean, we should have really have had Nathan Gilchrist playing for us, might have helped, but a typical Somerset, one of their own coming back to skip us.
Well, there was a lot of stick flying around on Twitter about the old Nathan Gilchrist situation, but we offered him a contract, didn't he? But he just couldn't get into our first 11, so completely justifiably he went off to a county where he was going to get first 11 cricket. I mean, we wanted to keep him, but you can't just say to Craig or Jamie or Jack Brooks or whoever, Josh Davey, that sorry, we're going to give Nathan Gilchrist a run in the team because we want to keep him when you're part of this bowling attack, which is doing really well. It's just one of those things that happens, and I don't fault as much as the Somerset management are criticised. I think they're pretty blameless on this one. There's not much more they could have done to keep him, aside from paying him stupid money to play in the second team. What do we make of that? Oh shit! My chair does that sometimes. It's a bit cheap. There's a little bar that goes across to support him. When I get a bit too exaggerated with the lean back, how he sat there pissing himself, drinking my side. He can go and stand on the patio if you want.
I think it's worth mentioning that Gilchrist's announcement, the announcement of Gilchrist's departure, was a week or maybe a few days after Jamie's. So it'd be interesting to know if Gilchrist knew Jamie was leaving, because if Gilchrist did know that, it sort of made it a little bit more surprising. I remember at the time being quite surprised, like, hang on, Jamie's just left, so surely that creates an opening for Gilchrist potentially to sort of break into the side. And the way I saw it at that point in time was he was the furthest forward out of our younger bowlers, ahead of Aldridge and Leonard and Baker. So it did surprise me at the time for sure. But I mean, I guess Kent were probably able to offer him first team cricket a bit sooner than we could have, I suppose. So it was a shame at the time to lose him, because I think it was highly rated, and I saw that Zach Crawley was saying that he reckons Gilchrist could be pushing for England selection quite soon. So it'd be a shame if we do end up missing on what seems to be a fine bowler,
especially as our bowling attack is starting to look a little bit fragile. We'll have a chat about that in a minute. Before my chair
fragile, geriatric is the word.
Yeah. now, Anthony. Didn't quite go that far, but before my chair decided to self-destruct, Andy Umeed was one that we thought would definitely have had a lot to play for this game, really trying to stake a claim for championship selection next year. And what did he get? 3 and 4, and never really looked.
Never saw enough of him to form a judgment, really.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think it's a massive game for him, and I'll be honest with you, I don't see him playing the start of next season. Our strongest 11, Dixon, Lammonby, Abel, Goldsworthy, Kohler, Cadmore, and then someone like Bartlett and Banton's probably going to miss out, and they probably should be ahead of Umeed. Ben Green's going to miss out. There's so much strength in depth. A bit of an odd signing, Umeed, and he's probably it's good to have backup as an opening bat, but I don't see him getting in our strongest 11 when everyone's available.
No.
Well, I hope he wins as well.
We don't even know overseas yet. We're not not even bringing that into those names I just mentioned there.
Well, I think they'd be pretty foolish to try and bring in an overseas batter to sort of congest that batting lineup even more and give themselves even more of a headache. Casey Aldridge, though, I was advocating for him to be rested in favour of Sonny Baker. I still think Sonny should have played, but possibly in favour of somebody like Jack Brooks, who was probably a little bit tired. But 6 for 100, was it 6 for 101? Something like that, wasn't it?
A bit more than that, I think.
110. 6 for 110. Slogged it out for 25 overs. Did he bowl as well?
Slogged it out, yeah. Reward for perseverance. He kept plugging away, and sooner or later, one of the Kent batsmen was going to get himself out.
Yeah, there's some silly shots made, weren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you couldn't say that he ripped through the Kent batting lineup or anything like that. I mean, he's still learning his trade, Casey Aldridge. I said during commentary, I just wish he had a little bit more devil about him. He runs up nice and easily. He's got a nice, easy action. He puts it more or less in the right place 5 times out of 6. But there's not that sort of feeling of threat to the batsman that you would get from Craig Overton or Jamie Overton.
He's too nice, is he?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I just wish he bowled a bit faster. He looks as if he's capable of bowling a bit faster and digging it in and in at the batsman a bit more. But maybe that's being unfair. I mean, he has bowled well this season. He's come on a lot since last year, and he's a very nice lad, and I hope he's got a very good future with Somerset.
I think you're right. This is his first sort of full proper season playing first class cricket, and I think you always end a season and have a look back at what's gone on, what you need to work on, and I think you're absolutely right, Gibbo. He just needs to go away with Jason Kerr. I mean, they did it with Craig Owen a couple of years ago, didn't they? After he played his sort of first handful of Test matches, they said to him, right, you've got to go away, get yourself a little bit faster, and he managed to do that. So, I mean, I know if Jason Kerr can do that with Craig, he's probably going to be able to do it with Casey as well. So I don't think Casey's going to be playing any franchise cricket. I'm not sure if he's going away for a winter of club cricket, but yeah, if that was me, that's what I'd be doing. Just trying to get that extra yard of pace on that, and as you say, that little bit of, how do you put it, a bit of devil. Good stuff. I'll just go back to the point you said about if we had finished fifth, it would have flattered us. Because if we had finished fifth, we wouldn't have lost to any of the teams that had finished below us, and we would have only lost to teams that would have finished above us. So I think if we had ended up finishing fifth, then it probably would have been a fair reflection, given that we only played Northants once, Yorkshire once, we played Lancashire, finished second once as well, and we played Surrey, Hampshire and Essex, who were three of the top four. We had to play them twice, so
Depends if you're judging us on first or second innings, I reckon, because it's completely different.
Good point.
Yeah. But yeah, anything more about Kent then, or should we consign that to the memory bin, the memory bank, dustbin?
Bin, that's all right.
I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, but I suppose just one final point is, if you want a side to be totally ruthless, really have that mongrel about them, have that pride, as you said, about going everywhere, playing for the badge, playing for your teammates, playing for yourself. You need to eliminate that kind of one foot on the bus back home mentality. And however much you say that no, we were given it away, I always think there's just a little bit of devil that will just sit on your shoulder saying, "Come on, just get back on the bus. It doesn't really matter. Just play a big shot and get out." I'm not saying that it's there at the forefront of your mind, but it's just there a little bit subconscious. You kind of get it in club cricket as well. Yeah. Sometimes if you avoid relegation or you win the league, the penultimate week of the season,
reverse your batting order, don't you?
Yeah. I'm not suggesting that. Yeah.
I don't think Goldsworthy or Abel would do that.
No.
But I feel like there's possibly a few other candidates who would. But I mean, they're on the plane to Mykonos. Let's leave for that rather than on the bus.
Yeah, it's that time of the year, and every cricket is
It's called human nature, Sheps. Human nature.
Yeah.
Because even Surrey got thrashed by Lancashire, didn't they?
Yeah.
Title. So even the best teams, they can have the best teams. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, our avoiding relegation isn't a trophy, but it felt, it's the same sort of feeling, isn't it? When you go into that game, like if we win, we've achieved our objective for the season, and no further objectives can be achieved. It's very difficult to mentally get that out of your mind and really get yourself back up for next week, when the only thing on it is championship placings, which I'm not sure how much money will be lost by not finishing.
There is a bit of money, I think, between first and third's a lot, isn't it? I was hearing the other day. First
and
third's
second, I can find out.
Possibly. I feel like there's not as different further down, but someone said about Hampshire, whether they get second, third, or fourth was going to be massive for them.
Liam Norwell put pay to that. Should we have a little chat about that? Were you watching that on whatever it was, Thursday afternoon? That was riveting viewing.
Yeah,
I'm still watching it back.
Good old Gloucester. Good old Gloucester.
Yeah, what was it? Yeah, so Gloucester beat Yorkshire, didn't they? And despite some heroics from Don Bess, he got about 70 odd.
That was pretty good to watch. Bess and Pattinson, I was watching that avidly.
Slapped one to backward point and they lost.
On his last game.
And then, Warwickshire and Hampshire, Liam Norwell's heroics, so what are they chasing Hampshire about 138, something like that. Just absolutely riveting view.
Gloucestershire's finest. Gloucestershire's finest, as was. Double Gloucester success.
Yeah.
Double Gloucester. Is that some sort of cheese pun there, Anthony? Or...
Gloucestershire played a massive part in the run in the last couple of games. Celebrating the game at Somerset the other week when they won. Beat Warwickshire, beat Yorkshire, and when they're already down and out. I mean, if they played with the fight they showed the last 2 weeks, Gloucestershire might have stayed up.
Well, they might have beaten us if it hadn't rained on the last day. Anyway.
Yeah,
God, don't say that.
I think they would have done.
Well,
should we have a quick chat about a certain amateur golfer who's caught the attention of a few people this week?
The question about that is, do we know that Joe Root chose not to play, or did the ECB say that he can't play? I don't know if we know a definitive answer to that, do we?
Yeah, I don't know.
I would imagine if they've given the green light to a 36-year-old fast bowler to go off and play county cricket, they would probably...
Did Broad play every test this summer? No, would that come into it?
Yeah.
Did Broad miss one?
I think he missed one at least.
He played most of them, didn't he? But
He
I
did
think it varies from player to player. Remember, Jimmy Anderson didn't play. Obviously, Leach didn't play. Pope and Folks didn't play the last game. I don't know. I don't want to judge Joe Root without knowing the full story, really. It's a tough one.
I get Dan's point, but if it was Tom Abel, I'd be fuming.
Well,
I don't think Tom Abel would do that. I don't think Tom Abel... He would be desperate to play. I mean, does it make a difference? Joe Root's he's Sheffield, and Yorkshire's home's Leeds. Maybe it's slightly different. Tom Abel's Taunton through and through, the home's Taunton. But Tom Abel would have done everything he could to play, and he would have played. I'd be a bit gutted if I was a Yorkshire fan.
And especially considering as well that Yorkshire are missing Milan, Brooke, Bairstow and Root from their first choice lineup. And I would also say, given the pretty awful reputation that the ECB currently have among county cricket fans, of it could have been a nice olive branch for the management to say to all the players, please make every effort. And I would say, unless you're on a Zimmer frame or whatever, or on crutches, make every effort you can to play in these last couple of rounds of championship games, because as a PR exercise more than anything, is we kind of need to get back in the good books of some county fans, and the optics are not particularly good when your side have just got relegated by losing by 19, 20 runs, whatever it is they lost by, and then there's a mixed review.
To be fair to Joe Root, he's probably been signed up for that competition, which is very expensive to be part of in any case if you're an amateur, for the best part of a year. And I'm quite sure he cleared his participation with the ECB and Yorkshire County Cricket Club a long time ago, and it would have caused a lot of disruption if he'd pulled out what is a big deal, that competition.
How well did he do?
The last game.
I don't know actually.
It would have been a lovely gesture if he had pulled out, but I would have been very, very surprised under the circumstances if he had.
Yeah, it's just those optics aren't great though. There's a picture of you, Peterson, Vaughan, and Piers Morgan who aren't.
Yeah, I think
those aren't the most popular
done well. Yeah,
faces among county cricket. We all know what Piers Morgan's reputation is. It's not a good look. And I agree with you, Harry. If Tom Abel was, playing in that tournament when we needed him, we'd be
fuming.
Yeah, exactly. But it's sad, isn't it? But yeah, if we look at the high performance review, it's all weighted against county cricket, and then I don't know. It really just doesn't sit right with me. And I agree with you, Gib. I take your point that you'd have been arranged to play in it for a long time. But flipping that back, are they not going, well, hold on a minute. The last test against South Africa is finished, 2-3 weeks ago? That is still in the cricket season. Yorkshire have got a game. You are a cricketer. Can you play in that game, please?
Yeah. I think the other thing you've got to bear in mind is the chaos that there is in Yorkshire County Cricket Club at the moment.
Yeah, that's probably putting him off, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And who knows what's going on. I mean, Patel looks as if he's about to be sacked or resign as chairman, and all hell's let loose with Andrew Gale making accusations. So maybe Joe Root thought he was well out of it, and I wouldn't blame him.
When's he out of contract, Dan?
He is actually, yeah.
Is he?
He's the one Yorkshire player who is out of contracts, as far as I can tell. Yeah.
Well, I know we said we don't want to sign any more batters, but
He's not getting in. You can come down and play in our seconds. Yeah.
But, you've got to earn your way in the team, young'un.
But I think Anthony makes a good point there. I mean, did you listen to Jonathan Doidge's interview? I thought that was fascinating with Tom Kohler-Cadmore. Like, do you want to leave? That line really worried me. From a Yorkshire point of view, I interviewed Andrew Gale for my university dissertation on whether T20 was ruining cricket about 8 years ago now. Which is, I mean, things have changed a bit since then. But having gone to Huddersfield University, spent a lot of time around Yorkshire, and I wasn't aware of all this racism stuff that's come through. But it's almost sad to see the club not in tatters and falling to pieces. May sound a bit extreme, but Yorkshire in Division 2 with Milan, Bairstow, Brook, Root, all these amazing players, all these England players. Like, over the last 10 years, they've been one of the best sides, and I just think it's mental and sad in some ways for them. I almost feel for Yorkshire staff, as that sounds. They shouldn't be a Division 2 side, really, but...
Maybe if Joe Root had played, they would be.
Well...
I think it's fair to say that there's a good chance he might have helped them get those extra 20 runs they needed to win. But
if he cancelled his golf tournament and got 2 ducks, then what would happen? And still went down. What would happen then?
Well, at least they'd have gone down with a fight.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I listened to your interview with Tom Abel on the cricket show in the week just gone. Gib, I think, what has he said? Indifferent, middling sort of season?
I said good, bad or indifferent. He said indifferent, which I think is pretty fair. It's not been a great season. It's not been a disastrous season either. It's not been a great one. Yet again, we haven't played to our potential, and that's the key for the future. We've got all the ingredients are there for success, but we're just not performing consistently enough at a high enough level. It's consistency that's been missing. And with the best one in the world, I think you've got to look at the coaching side of things. Although, talking about that, I did a bit of number crunching. Dan probably knows this already, but the top 5 local boys in the batting order, that's it, Lammonby, Abel, Bartlett, Banton and Goldsworthy, made 1,000 runs more between them in 2 fewer innings this season than they did last season. So let's hear it for Lachlan.
Yeah, I enjoyed that stat, Anthony. I heard that.
Is it one of yours, Gibbo, or is it from Steve Pittard, former landlord?
No, it's one of mine. I worked it out myself because I wanted to see, to the extent to which the side had progressed this year as against last year, and I think our homegrown batsmen have progressed.
Yeah, definitely,
but not to the extent that they're capable of. They're still way short of performing to their full potential. But we are certainly in the batting moving in the right direction. I'm less sure of the direction of travel with the bowling. I'm worried about the bowling for next season.
Well, age catches up with seam bowlers a hell of a lot faster than it does with batters. And I was just looking at the bowling stats here. I mean, so Craig Everett 9 games, Josh Davey 8 games, Siddle 8 games, which... Okay, he wasn't around for the last 4. Brooks 7, Aldridge 8, Leach 7, and then Gregory played 11. So you're not going to keep all those seam bowlers fit for a whole season. That's pie in the sky.
Well, I don't know. Look at Hampshire. Look at Hampshire. Abbott and Mohammed Abbas and Keith Barker. That was that. With James Fuller as well.
Fuller and Wheel.
And that was their attack. Those 4 with their seam attack, match after match after match after match, and they performed game after game after game after game, and were very unlucky in the end not to win the championship.
What's worrying?
So why But we haven't got an attack that's anything like as consistently good as that, and I think that's a big weakness.
Between those 4, Abbott, Barker, Fuller, they only missed 4 matches. Abbott missed 2, Abbott missed
Brad
1,
Wheel's a pretty good
Fuller
replacement, isn't it?
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
What's worrying when looking at the Somerset bowling averages is Matt Renshaw's 2nd. I mean, that's a pretty damn...
You could say he was underused, yeah. Craig
who'll say that?
Craig Overton stand out 36 wickets at 17.97. Josh Davey 21 at 21. Siddle 27 at 23. Then Brooks and Aldridge 23 apiece at 28 and 30.
But if Ned Leonard gets
Respectively.
fit, does he come in next year? If he can sort his chronic injuries out, does he come in? Do you have Leonard and Baker?
He was planned to, wasn't he?
You know, first game against Hampshire, yes, COVID and injuries come in, but do we try that again first game next season?
I think I want to hit the ground running next year.
It's got to be an overseas bowler or two, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think when Craig and Davey are fit, when they're fully fit, they're dead certs 2 of our bowling attack. And then we've got to be signing an overseas bowler, possibly 2 overseas bowlers, because I don't think we're going to sign an overseas batter. So we need to get one reasonably available, decent quality pace bowler, like Siddle. It could be Siddle again. It
I
depends
think
who
it'll be
wants to
Siddle
on.
again.
We need a Siddle signing again, and then the other slot can be maybe a bit more flexible. Could look to sign a spinner for the periods of the season that Leach is missing. We could sign a pace bowler for the other periods.
Like Sajid Khan, 5 wickets, 73 runs apiece. That was good value for money, wasn't it?
Yeah, can't see us signing him again.
Yeah, well, I suppose he did get that run out up at Warwickshire that
Yes, he did.
turned the game, but it certainly pegged them back in that run chase on the 4th day.
I think they'd given it up by then. It was still a brilliant piece of work. But no.
Yeah, he just. And
He wasn't-
we've
he-
got much to add on Saji that we haven't
No.
talked about in the last couple of weeks, really.
But isn't Siddle going to come back next year then?
Yeah, I think it is.
Is that
I
right?
hope so.
Have you heard that, Harry?
No, I don't know officially, but I feel like it makes sense, and he seemed to love it, and he seems more at home at Somerset than he was at Essex. And what reason would he have to change? He's made a lot of good friends and got on well. So
Next door to Morrison's get his bananas. He's happy with that.
But it is a pretty geriatric opening attack, isn't it? You know, when we got Siddle. How old will he be next year? 38? Jack Brooks will be 39?
I
All
don't
right,
know-
England have
yeah.
got Anderson and Broad, but you know, they're a bit of an outlier.
Do we not play Brooks and Dave in the same 11 is part of what I think. So as much as I love them both, I think you play one or the other of them. I think Josh Davies probably better. Dave and Overton together are brilliant. But can we have Davey, Brooks and Siddle? You say that's 3 old boys.
Well, I'd like to see some good bit of progression.
Well, Davey will be, what, 33, won't he?
Yeah, that counts as an old boy just about. doesn't
And
it?
he's getting a bit injury prone.
Yeah.
And another question is Lewis Gregory. His bowling
Well,
figures this season were 15 wickets in 11 matches, an average of 53, which is a bit worrying because he balances the side, at number 7.
I don't know if he
But I
does-
just worry
does
we're
he
not
anymore,
getting
though?
enough. That's the thing. But I think batting wise, he was decent. 532 runs, average of 35. It's just his bowling has tailed off a bit, and I think it's a bit worrying.
But as much as I
Well,
love
it's his
Lewis Gregory,
back.
do you play? Yeah, you can't play him
It's
with
his
that back, can you?
Not fit. I don't think he'll ever play a major part as a bowler again.
And I
He's,
don't,
he's got a hairline fracture of one of his lower vertebrae, and it stiffens up. And poor bloke. I mean, it's a great shame.
yeah.
But I honestly, I would hardly bring Gregory into the sort of bowling equation for next season. I think you've just got to treat him as a batsman who might bowl the occasional over. But I don't think he's going to be fit enough to bowl anything like put in anything like the performance he did in 2019 when he was when he bowled us to victory at Kent, for example.
I agree with Anthony.
It's
I think
a huge shame.
he's been massive for so many years now, but we've just gone. I mentioned a couple of minutes ago that the players we've got, you can't play him ahead of Bartlett or Banton. I wouldn't have thought as an out and out batter. And Abel and Lammerby are going to be fitter to bowl more overs, and those two improve every year with the ball. I've been forget their batting; those two are improving bowlers all the time. I think they could bowl Lewis Gregory's overs, and then you could play, a Banton or a Bartlett as well as the top 5 or 6 already mentioned, and Rue's keeping improving. Maybe Goldsworthy deserves to have a bit of a bowl as well. We've got plenty of bowlers who can bat and batters who can bowl.
Yeah,
We have.
They're
They're not going to rip.
No,
They're not going to rip through a good, a decent opposition batting lineup on a good pitch.
no.
That is the problem.
Does one of them have a day out every now and again? If it's Abel's week one week, you hope, then it's Lammerby's week next week. But yeah, I agree. You hope. That's why maybe do we need a Siddle or do we need someone who's really quick and penetrating? We've got Siddle who's going to dot it up and bowl maidens, but do we need someone who's going to rip through them and put on the back foot a bit?
Well, we've got to hope that Sonny Baker proves to be the real deal.
Yeah. And give him a game.
And I agree with Harry. He should have been given a chance down at Canterbury, assuming he's fit.
Yeah,
It was.
He was fit. Yeah.
Just looking at it, I can't see a downside to it.
No.
What would have been the downside to giving him a go?
I think it would have been the fitness issue, wouldn't it? I think it was just whether or not they felt confident giving him a 4-day match at that
Yeah,
intensity.
2.5 day match.
Well, yeah, but even so, in that situation, even if it is it's a 4-day match, but you don't have to bowl him 21, 22, 23 overs a day. You know, you can monitor him and say, okay, obviously, 19, 20-year-old lad had back issues, a bit like they did with Craig, 4 or 5 over spells. Get him assessed by the medical staff at lunch and tea, and if he's not up to bowling after tea, you don't bowl after tea.
But going back
You
to
can enable Lamberby those overs.
why then, when Sajid Khan is bowling so poorly, why did Goldsworthy not get a bowl? The last 3 or 4 games in September, why did Goldsworthy not get the ball?
I honestly don't know. I mean, that's what David Fulton wanted, who I was working with. He wanted to know. He'd heard that Goldsworthy bowled slow left arm, and he was wanting to see what he could do, and he was never given the chance, which seemed peculiar because Sajid Khan was bowling at least 1 4-ball and over, if not 2, and he didn't look like taking wickets, and he wasn't closing up one end. So
There's an argument for not even playing Sajid Khan last game. Like, last game of the season is a dead rubber anyway. Why not?
Yeah.
Why even play him? Bowl someone who can improve and gain for the benefit is going to be there next year.
Who are our young spinners at the moment?
Well, this new signing in the second team, I'm very excited to see. Shoaib Bakshir, he's going to be very good. Steve Davies, I can see he's one of the best spinners he's seen, the long fingers and really good control. He's going to be very excited. He wasn't there in time. Yeah, bowls off spin. So he's the one.
What's he called, Harry?
I think
What's he called?
Shoaib Bakshir, I think. My pronunciation might not be bang on, but he was the one bowling on the square at lunchtime in the Northampton game. In the
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve Davies.
Where's he come from? Is he a local boy or?
Oh, you should know. Might it be Buckinghamshire? I think he played on one of the Royal London Cup games. One of the B-shire. Buckinghamshire, Bedfordshire. I should check before I give false information.
He's effectively joined as a academy/second 11 player, has he?
Yeah, but I think he's thought of more highly than that, and I think he's going to get.
I know he's got a contract yet. They've not made an announcement about him having a contract.
But I think he's going to be one of those that is exciting. There's a lot of talk about him. He can be very exciting.
So you also have Josh Thomas, who can bowl left arm spin. Seems to give it a rip. And there's also that Max Horton, isn't there? Another name from the academy. I think he's not.
I don't know
too much about it.
I don't think Horton's quite there, but no, I'm sure Bashir got 5 for 44 against Warwickshire seconds in 12th of September, and then he also played against Surrey where he got 3 for 51. So done all right for Somerset too. So yeah, hopefully he gets a go.
Good stuff. Me and Harry were at the dinner on Friday night. Harry went off the Mambos afterwards. I was very sensibly taken back to the hotel by my good lady wife, and I appreciated that in the morning when I was fairly fresh. Old President Pete looked a bit tender down at breakfast. As we got down there just as he was finished up. We walked back to his other room and he just went, "Oh, morning." I can bear with a sore head. It's a good night. Right, should we see if we can remember who won the awards off the top of our heads?
I can't remember nothing.
Tom Abel was County Championship Player of the Year, and Ben Green was White Ball Player of the Year.
But he didn't get Champagne Moment, did he? Roloff van der Merwe.
Roloff got the Champagne
Moment
for
his Bristol.
45 off 15 or 48 or 15.
Some knock that was mine.
Up at Gloucester in the T20.
Young Player of the Year was James Rue.
Young Player of the Year was James Rue.
Not Pete Trigo, as he announced it himself.
Not Pete Trigo. No, I had James Rue's parents on our table, actually. Very nice.
Yeah.
James, he's off to Australia on Wednesday.
Yeah.
He's going to play a season of grade cricket out there, which could only be a good thing. I don't think many players come back from Australia worse than they did when they set off. What else was there? A couple of ladies' awards. I think the Young Women's Player of the Year was...
Not Nat Rafe?
I think Nat Rafe was Players Player of the Year.
Anyway, Nat Rafe was Young Player, yeah.
Young Player of the Year.
Yeah. And Daisy Jeans was the player of the year.
Daisy Jeans, that's one's player of the year. Tom Abel got supporters player of the year. He got another one, didn't he? What was the other one he got?
Don't know, he could have got most of the awards to get back of the year.
He got supporters player,
That was
championship player, and just general player of the year.
General
Yeah.
player of the year, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No controversial decisions there. It was all pretty standard.
No,
to be
I think
fair.
it was.
Can't argue with any of them.
No, that was all good fun. Everybody was enjoying themselves after the dinner upstairs as well.
Yeah, good laugh.
Some fair amount of hijinks going on up there, but we'll go with what goes on tour stays on tour mantra for that one. I had a nice chat to Sir Michael Barber, chairman.
Yeah.
And I'll promise him to get on. So Michael will get you on over the winter. Don't worry about that. I got recognised as well. Someone came up to me and said, "Are you in Chapel for podcast?" I went, "Yeah."
You love that.
I did have that. And it was,
Aim at last.
I didn't get asked for a selfie, which was a bit
Poor.
lovely, but he was called Matt or Mike. I can't remember.
Can't remember.
Matt or Mike. But
You were too busy texting me during the
He's a
speeches.
music teacher. Yeah. So thanks for coming out and saying hello, Matt or Mike. Let us know whether you are a Matt or a Mike. And that was pretty much. What else happened at the dinner? Triggs went off early because he's watching his lad play football in Southampton the next day.
Yeah.
We stole
Farewells we had, didn't we?
We had what?
Farewells.
Oh, the farewells. Yeah.
Kirby, Sale, a couple of the physio team,
Yeah.
and Hildreth, of course,
And
the major
Hildreth,
one.
Max Waller as well. Max had his
Max Waller.
appendix out last week, so
Yes.
he was a bit tender. So it was a bit of good effort for Max to turn up and get presented his award. And both got standing ovations as well when
Yeah.
they were before they walked up. So that was and a few tears as well when Hildy
Very
was
nice, yeah.
Hildy was talking. So don't know if they've got the sign fixed yet on his stand to get his number of runs right.
He'll be rocking out for Stony Stratford next year.
Yeah,
he said.
Stony Stratford up near Milton Keynes next year. So if you are a bowler in
Good luck.
the Buckinghamshire, whatever league that is,
Yes, I think it's the Milton Keynes League. There's about 12 different leagues around there. I've played around there for a while, and it's so complicated who plays where and what. But got to be honest, it's not the greatest of standards for James Hildreth to be
I
going.
imagine James Hildreth would clean up at pretty much
I
all of.
I reckon he could play left-handed, score hundreds, but we'll see.
Yeah, but slight downer on the evening for me that Roloff Van der Merwe couldn't make it.
Yeah.
So I was
Gutting.
the only. Yeah, I think it was. He wasn't there. Andy Umeed wasn't there, and I didn't see Josh Davey. Did you see?
No, Scotland warming up for the World Cup,
well,
innit?
Scotland.
Roloff and Josh Davey, you can give them permission. They are warming up for a pretty big tournament. To be fair.
Fair enough.
It's only a couple of weeks
Probably
away,
would
isn't it?
not have been allowed to go to Mambo's. So yeah, good night. Highly recommend it. And if you want to get some free drinks, just wait for the dinner to finish because the players will inevitably daddy long legs
Yeah, I'm not a fan
flying
of them.
around here at the moment. Players inevitably leave half of their free drinks on their tables afterwards. So get
Sampled
there
every
before
time
Harry
touches.
Everett. Right. Shall we have a little talk about the old high performance review then? I did pop it in the email. So, where do we think about the old HPR? So a lot of it is fairly straightforward and understandable, and we'll get waved through on the nod. Now we all know what's going on with the. Oh, Harry's shutting the door. Stop the daddy long legs coming in. Well done, Harry. Now, this is obviously a starting point for a negotiation. I don't expect it to go through in its current format by any stretch of the imagination. But the only thing that is not up for negotiation and hasn't been suggested that it be tweaked at all is that other competition.
Yeah.
So did they miss a trick by saying, do you know what we'll do? Actually, we'll try and compress the 100 into 2.5 weeks and play more than one game a day.
Well, it wasn't a high performance review, was it? It was a Championship Royal London Cup and
Yeah.
T20 Blast review. They were never going to change their competition.
Yeah.
That was never
Exactly.
considered.
Yeah. The problem is there just is no good solution where
No.
Because the 100 is there. There's no ideal thing you can play at the same time as the 100, and it just causes all these issues. There's a reason there's an impasse at the moment in terms of what the counties want to do. It's because there isn't any good solutions, because the 100 is a non-negotiable. That's it really. Like, while the 100 remains a non-negotiable, we're going to get another fudge, unfortunately.
Well, are we going to commentate on that second class? Do you know, Anthony? Are you going to tell you something? Going to commentate on that second 11 championship? Effectively, what's going to be?
Well,
Dom Sibley scores
we
100
won't
every week.
call it. If it comes to pass, we won't call it a second 11 championship.
No.
And I'm sure we get good crowds at Taunton. And yes, I'll be commentating if it's regarded as first class cricket, which I presume it would be. But is it any worse than what we got at the moment? I don't know.
It's going to distort.
Well, I'm
the
not
stats,
clear.
isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but Dan is absolutely right. As long as you've got the 100 stuck, like the dirty great elephant in the room, and everything else has got to move around it, you're not going to find a satisfactory solution. So whatever they come up with, it's going to disappoint an awful lot of people, and probably not be very good for the future of county cricket in England.
So do the counties need to get together then and almost write their own high performance review, if you like, because it's got to be no good having 18 different proposals going back to Lords to say no, this is bullshit and here's why. It needs to be a cogent argument from all the counties. And do you think they would get anywhere if they said, right, let's make the 100, let's squeeze it down to 20 days if we can, and then we can start talking, we will move if you move. Because at the moment, they're not moving. The ECB aren't moving. They're going, this is what we want to do, and this is what we want to push through, and you're going to like it. So it's really up to the counties to get organised and say, no, we will do this, thank you very much.
Problem is the 100 TV deal set, isn't it? I'm guessing that requires a certain number of matches. And it's got to be one game a night. It's all been decided. I mean, this review should have happened before the 100. It was silly. I mean, things were different back then, but it's all in the wrong order. And I think it just comes down to the fact that none of the competitions are ideal to be played at the same time as the 100. You can't have the Blast at the same time as the 100 because that would be suicide for the counties. You can't really have the One Day Cup at the same time as the 100 forever because you need county cricketers to be playing 50 over cricket sometimes. You can't really... You could have the Championship at the same time as the 100, but again, there are problems with it because it would devalue the competition. Surrey were massively hit by the 100 this year. It would have produced a different winner of the Championship most likely and probably an undeserved winner. And you could play a second first-class competition at the same time as the 100, but it would cause the Championship to go down to 10 games. It would create an extra competition, which no one will really be that bothered about, and members will hate it. So all of those, they all could happen, but none of them are particularly good solutions. So it might just be choosing the least worst of them. And I've said before that maybe a second first-class competition might be the least worst, as long as you've got to have 4 matches, 4 group stage matches, and then an overall final played at the same time as the 100 final. But there are still, as I said, there are still multiple issues with that. But at least with that, you'd get the One Day Cup back to full strength. But the Championship would go down to 10 games, which a lot of people would not like. But the number of days cricket played by the top players would reduce by 8. So, there's lots of pros and cons. You can keep going but, for everything, really. So it's honestly, I do not envy the people who are having to make this decision because none of the solutions are very good, and they're all going to cause a lot of anger, I think.
I mean, it's not going to happen, but everything works better if you just get rid of the bloody 100.
Yeah.
Well, I know
it's not going to happen. So they've really just boxed themselves into a corner here. And are they going to, when it does come time where they now have an option to ditch the 100 when TV deals expire or whatever, are they going to have the bollocks to do that to get the schedule back to, I say normal, but back to being much easier to organise? I'm just looking at what it says for the One Day Cup here. The competition will be played in April in a single block, comprising of 6 rounds with a significant knockout element. We're investigating the appetite to involve the national counties to create an FA Cup style competition. That sounds great, but then on the flip side, if it is a significant knockout element, you could potentially then have 1 or 2 home games.
You could play one game. You could be rained off. You could lose on a bowl off or a 10 over thrash, and not play any 50 over cricket. You could be injured for that one game and not play all season. The format that we won the World Cup in 2 years ago. Imagine 1966. Oh, we won the Football World Cup in 90-minute football. We're going to make our own format. We're going to play 75 minutes. No other country in the world plays this. We're going to play different kind of minutes of football, and we're going to stop playing 90 minutes next year. Yeah, stop playing 90 minutes next year.
Rush goalie.
You know what I mean?
And I, as a fan, want to see more than 1 or 2 50 over matches.
Yeah,
I
love it.
I want to have guaranteed 8 50 over matches at least.
Yeah.
You can't really go down from 8, I don't think.
Because the thing with knockout competitions in other sports is rugby union, football, virtually all the other sports, there is one format of that sport.
Yeah. And the knockout supplements the league.
Yeah.
But you can't have a knockout for the One Day Cup unless it supplements a league One Day Cup as well. So I'm not completely against. I'd love to see an FA Cup knockout style competition, but it has to be alongside a proper league style One Day competition. And the problem is it's quite difficult to fit both of those things in.
Yeah, because back when they had the NatWest and the Benson Edges, the Benson Edges was sort of regional mini group based, and the NatWest was a straight knockout involving the minor counties. So that solution worked.
Yeah.
And going back to what they say on the One Day Cup, counties knocked out during the group stage would have the opportunity to play Red Bull warm-up fixtures ahead of the county championship beginning in May. That's going to be pretty difficult to organise, isn't it?
Yeah. Doesn't sound very interesting, does it?
If you're Somerset and the only other team that's been knocked out is Durham, and you kind of want to drag all the way up there, or Durham drag all the way down to Taunton for a warm-up game, you're going to have to steward it. You've got to get all the staff in. You're going to have to organise all your... If you're live streaming it, you've got to get your live stream stuff in. There's, you don't just rock up and play. You've got to make sure you've got a pitch. All these things that go into putting a game of first-class cricket on at a county ground. It's not as easy. It's not as easy as just having the opportunity to play another Red Bull warm-up fixture.
Yeah, and the thing with cutting the One Day Cup is you can't really cut it much further, and you don't really gain much. You gain a few extra days leeway in the schedule, but the counties would lose a fair bit of money because obviously the One Day Cup is a reasonably profitable format. I think, at least it's more, revenue-wise, I assume it does better than the Championship, and it's one of the formats that spectators. It's a more popular format for spectators than the Championship, I think. So you don't really gain much by cutting the One Day Cup. And I hate to say it, you gain the most by cutting the Championship. If you cut 4 Championship games, you gain 16 days leeway. And I don't want to lose the Championship, and I don't want to lose first-class cricket. But none of the competitions are particularly ideal to be cut. You can't really cut the Blast much more, but if at all, because obviously all the counties rely on the revenue from having as many Blast games as they can. So, as said, we're at an impasse. None of the competitions are really that suitable to be cut.
So this proposal. Sorry, were you just about to jump in there, Gibbo?
Well, I was just thinking about the One Day Cup and how many games. I mean, they're talking about a group stage rather than it just being a straight knockout. So presumably it'll be 4 groups of 5. So each county will play 4 games in the qualifying stage, presumably 2 home and 2 away, and then there'll be quarterfinals, semi-final, and a final. Now that, to me, if that is the outcome, doesn't sound too bad. It's very similar to the old Benson Hedges. But admittedly, the Benson Hedges went on from sort of late April to the end of May, so this is going to be compressed a bit more into April. But I would have thought that's fair enough. What worries me about the whole thing is what Mike Atherton wrote in the Times last week when he said, no doubt there'll be a great deal of wheeling and dealing, but something like this, in other words, the HPR is going to come through in the end, and I think it probably will, because I think what the ECB will do is to trade off an increase in the number of Blast games from 10 to 14, which will keep the county chief executives happy because it means a huge increase, or very big increase, in revenue, in exchange for the county chief executives swallowing just 10 championship games. And I think that's what we're going to end up with. That's the cynic in me. The optimist in me would say that the ECP goes back to Sky Television and renegotiates the contracts on the basis either of a different a shorter 100 format, or scrapping the 100 altogether, and using the 18 counties as the base for this brand new competition, which was the idea. That was the idea in the first place. We were going to follow the example of Big Bash, make cricket attractive to families and women and all the rest of it, but do it on the basis of the 18 counties. And there's still no reason why we couldn't do that. And it could be renegotiated. But whether it will be, I don't know. But, we've got a new chairman of the ECB, and we will have a new chief executive. So it's not beyond the bounds of possibility to get that contract renegotiated. But in the absence of that, then I think we're probably going to be lumbered with more or less what's been suggested.
Just a very quick thought. Could it be that the 100 can stay, but just for the women? Do the ECB have the faith in the women that they can help it stand on its own 2 feet themselves? I think they could. If just have the 100 for women, keep the brand, keep the fans, the new fans that have been engaged by it, try and engage more new fans, and the brands can stay, and they can be the prime time slot for that period in the summer holidays. I don't know, but well, I suppose you want the blast back in the summer holidays if you get rid of the men's 100, but maybe that could be a compromise. It's not going to happen, but I think the women's element of the 100 has obviously been successful, and it's captured the imagination. It's managed to get some really high crowds. So maybe the ECB should back the women to stand on their own 2 feet, and not because there's still an element of it being them not quite backing the women like they have the men. The women still get paid a lot less. The women never get the prime time slots apart from once or twice a season. So that maybe could be something they'd look at.
But a lot of people watched that England-India Women's International the other day. So many people talking about the man cad. So, or just why not make, what the Kia Super League, yes, it didn't have the numbers, but now they've got supposedly more people into watching women's cricket, then why not try and have proper cricket again, proper overs, and get behind the women's blast, or, get a Kia Super League now, proper cricket, proper overs.
They could even still use the franchise names from the 100. I mean, I'm sure they're all owned by the ECB. I don't think it would be too much of a legal mess to keep those teams, but have them now playing in the women's 120 or whatever you want to call it. Get them playing proper. Yeah, proper
it can't be called T20 for 120. Yeah, right.
And just try and get them on double headers whenever you can. I mean, there weren't that many double headers back in the KSL days.
A few Sunday afternoon ones,
mostly Sunday afternoons, yeah, but there weren't.
Yeah, there were a few.
There were a few, but they weren't. Yeah, they weren't sort of by default. So,
a part of me thinks that I'm sort of pooing all over it, but we could talk about this review for hours and hours and hours. But so many counties have already said they don't like it. So many people have said they don't like it. It's not going to stay as it is now for 2024. So. We're going to have this discussion again in 6 months' time when they give another review. Then again when they have the next review. They're going to keep going round and round in circles, loads of different proposals. As we say, none of them are perfect. None of them are going to fix it. And we love cricket for what it is, so we're not going to be happy with whatever happens. Let's be honest.
Yes. The only thing I just want to quickly wrap up on this is with the proposal of this, the county championship being your 6th division, your 16 top division, and then this 12-team second division split into 2 conferences. Promoting 1 team out of 12 is ridiculous. And secondly, this idea of automatically the 6 teams in this top division being best versus best is absolute nonsense. Because I did a little spreadsheet. I'll show you now, Harry.
Look at this.
There we go. So
you have far too much time on your hands in front of the computer.
So this is what I've just done. I'll just share this so you can see it, guys. So I might have missed a couple out, but this is basically the 18 first-class counties in the order they finished.
Interesting spelling of Hamid.
So it's the 18 first-class counties in the order they finished in the county championship structure this year, and who their England players are. So I've just literally gone through the last 60, 70 players that played for England in Test match cricket and stuck them with their team. So Surrey have got quite a few. Lancashire obviously have got Anderson, Parkinson and Mahmood as bowlers. Now I think the issue of best versus best, it's more bowling really. It's about facing consistently top class 84, 85 mile an hour bowlers all the time. Now, unless there's a hell of a lot of...
Can I amend this as we go? Can I add little bits in?
Who plays for North?
Well, Will Young. If you're including a Bass, then you've got to include Will Young.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Bass has been more of a regular than Will Young.
Yeah, how many overseas are we including in this? Is what I was thinking.
Oh, just ones that spring to mind. So I'll put Harbour in, but maybe not a few others. This is very rough and ready. It's more used as a...
What's the point you're trying to make?
Yeah.
The point thank you, Anthony. Right. The point I'm trying to make is that if you go into that top division of 6, you are not facing Jofra Archer or Ollie Robinson or Mark Wood or Matthew Potts, because they are in the 3rd division.
So 4 of our best England bowlers are in the 3rd division. That's a good point you make, yeah.
You're not facing Craig Overton, you're not facing Jack Leach, you're not facing Chris Wokes, Stuart Broad, Jake Ball, Toby Rowland-Jones. None of those bowlers are going to be in that top division.
Jimmy Anderson is our only, pretty much, our only Test match bowler in 1st division.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so you'd have Jamie Overton, Jimmy Anderson, Abbas Abbott, Dawson, and I've technically put Craig in there because he has played for England, and Simon Harmer in the top division. None for Kent, none for Northants. So this is either going to mean that all these bowlers you're going to have to ramp up the signings from the lower division. You're going to have to basically transfer a load of your better bowlers in the lower divisions to the top division. You're going to have that talent drain, or the whole thing's going to be pretty pointless.
But isn't that what's going to happen anyway? That the 6 big Test grounds with their 100 revenues will mop up all the good players. I mean, that's all part of the ECB's agenda.
So that's the danger,
and that's why they're so deeply pissed off that Northants will stay in the 1st division and Yorkshire are going down.
Yeah,
because
there's no way that they can not do if this does go through. There's no way they can't base that top 6 on the top 6 players in the Championship next year. It would just be. I know they're unpopular, but there's no way they could do that. So if we were doing
maybe 5 and the winner of the 2nd division.
Oh yeah, okay, but you'd have to do it on some order of placings. You couldn't just randomly say, "Oh, we're going to pick Sussex because they've got Jofra Archer and Ollie Robinson to put in the top division." You couldn't do that. So now you'd have Kent and Northants in there who have got no international quality bowlers at all. They've got decent county attacks, but that's
but the calculation will be that Kent and Northants will not be in that top tier for very long, because all of their good players will be mopped up by the richer counties with 100 franchises on their ground, and over the course of 5 or 10 years, all of the cream will rise to the top. Yeah. That's what they will be saying in ECB towers, so they're probably right, because at the end of the day, money talks. And we're looking at a sort of, an apartheid almost in terms of county cricket between the 100 grounds and the main 100 grounds, the top 6 and the rest. And the rest will act as feeders for that top 6 elite who will be, within 5 years, I'll bet you anything you'd like, they will be the big Test grounds. There'll be Yorkshire, Warwickshire, Surrey, Middlesex, Hampshire and Lancashire. Probably with 1 or 2 others dipping in and out from time to time, but it'll be the big 6. It's depressing, but that's what it's all about. And Andrew Strauss would say that's what high performance is all about. It's about getting the best to play the best, and Kevin Peterson would be right there with him, despite the fact that they don't exactly love each other. But on this, they are as one.
2 points can I quickly make? I wonder if we're going to see a fudge where it's going to be 10 games aside in the Championship, but we keep it as 2 divisions. So it's like 9 and 9 or 8 and 10 or 10 and 8. So you keep a good number of counties in Division 1. You keep all the counties interested. You keep 2 up, 2 down, so that all the counties feel like they have a chance of going up or a chance of winning the Championship. But only playing 10 games, which does mean a horrendously uneven schedule where you play sort of most of the teams once and a couple of teams twice. But I do wonder if that could be, the fudge that we're heading for. The other point I just wanted to make is that the smaller counties, I mean, it may be too late, maybe it can't happen, but I think the smaller counties need to be trying to push for some 100 double headers. I think every county should get guaranteed 100 double header per year. and it'll mean the big grounds have to miss out on 1 or 2 per year. But it's the kind of thing that they need to be pushing for, or they should have already pushed for. It should have been something that they originally should have sorted out, really. The smaller counties need to find a way to get some of the 100 money that is earned by the big grounds, because the big grounds obviously get to keep all of the revenue that they earn, from their match day sales.
We were going to have a women's game, weren't we? A Welsh Fire women's game.
We were.
Till that got cancelled.
Yeah, we were. I'm guessing subsequently now they've decided that double headers are the way to go. That's probably going to stay that way. So we've got to be pushing for an entire double header, an entire double header at Taunton, which I probably wouldn't go and see, but it would probably be of benefit to the club. And if other grounds get it too, it would just help to close the gap a little bit between the 100 and the non-100 counties.
Yeah, the only thing with that is there's so much.
Well, at least they call it Western Fire, not Welsh Fire.
But there's so much infrastructure that goes around the bloody 100 games. Because you've got all the staging and all the dance stage and all the livery and all the boardings that say 100, 100, 100 everywhere. So
how do you know that? What have you been looking at? You haven't been going, have you?
Yeah, somebody said it to me. Said, "Look at this; it's all crap." But let's go back to what we'll start doing questions now. We'll be here till bloody midnight. But John Hayes has put about Glamorgan, Gloucester, and Welsh Fire. Glamorgan, Gloucester,
not this again.
Somerset Western Fire. We've talked about this before,
every podcast, isn't it?
The only thing about that is we would only get potentially one home game a season with that, and with that point about all the infrastructure that goes around putting on one of these bloody circuses, it's just not worth doing just for one game. So it would be nice, but I can't see it happening. And then obviously the points about it not being those West Country players.
Yeah.
Let's quickly.
This is the better tweet. Come on, read the funny ones out.
Let's quickly buzz through these questions. Right. Mike Unwin's got a couple of golden apples for next week. Coach of the Year, Signature Travel. Boom, boom. And Cricket Construction Project of the Year, the BBC Commentary Cabin. Tweet of the Year, hashtag sorry, Ben.
That's a cracking tweet from Mike Owen. Or it could have been also the Brian the Cat Shed. The construction of the year.
Yeah, I was in the long room and my wife, I was just sort of pointing out to her where everything else was, everything is around the ground and stuff, and then I pointed to a commentary cabin, Gibbo. I'll tell you this on Twitter. She just went, how does he see from there? What are you going to get Polly for Christmas, Anthony? Is she on your Christmas card list? Because I think I heard a few rumours that you might be swapping. There might be a swap on the cards.
Well, I haven't heard that.
Well, you probably not, because it just might be Harry's idea, so that's probably why you've not heard it. We just sort of made it up. But
it was suggested. It was suggested at the start of the season, but I'm afraid Polly just wasn't very keen on the idea. But I don't know what's going to happen next year. There's going to be high level discussions.
You need to have a timeshare arrangement, Gibbo. Chris Payne has asked, do we think there'll be more movement in terms of players coming and going?
No, signed loads.
Not for a minute, I wouldn't have thought.
Just overseas, I'd have thought.
Yeah,
I doubt there'd be any domestic signings. Maybe, you never know. A domestic bowler, a domestic spinner, you never know. I think that's the kind of thing we've done.
I'm sorry about any more signings.
From Giles Harrison, as we may have to finish in the top 5 of the county championship next year, does the club need a new head coach and one that is at the club the whole season? Going off to the 100 in August, there may be championship cricket then, is really not acceptable for a first division side.
Well, would Paul Tweddle do the whole job? Would Greg Kennis do the whole job? I don't know. Are those two, for example, experienced enough yet at the highest level?
I wouldn't have thought so.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
Not sure, but it just doesn't sit right. I mean, they'll say that gets all this experience, works with these other coaches, blah blah blah. But your head coach, if you want to get coaching experience, I think go off, be an assistant coach in a franchise somewhere. I think that's certainly a lot more palatable to the members than sort of leaving for a whole month of the season.
The problem is, ECB will say someone has to coach these 100 teams, and they'll say that they want English coaches to get some experience with these teams. So, and I suppose also they'll say counties.
He could have done a worse job with Welsh Fire.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, time me out.
They'll also say the counties own these teams, or the counties kind of run these teams. Somerset, Glamorgan, Gloucester run Welsh Fire, so therefore they should contribute coaches to them. That's the kind of reasoning I think behind it. So.
Who knows? David Wyatt has gone back to the high performance review. Sorry, David.
No.
Finish that. Sorry.
Ban certain topic, surely.
Jacob Lunn. Right. Who should be on overseas next year? Peter Sidland, a bowler. What ground improvements would you like to see? Anthony
Gibbo shed.
New commentary box.
New commentary box. He also thinks the Kent performance was poor, but fine due to the season was over. We won the week before and didn't have our normal team out. I can't agree with that. Thoughts on Andrew Mead? I think we've done that already. Jacob?
We've covered all this naturally.
Yeah, and one more from Jacob. Any more signings or departures or any rumours?
No, I've not heard any rumours.
Not that I'm aware of.
And I think... Mike Kurzweil, last one then. If the number of championship games was reduced to 10 but made them 5 days in length...
Oh, God, no, please.
They don't need to be 5 days in length. Half of them don't last 4 days anyway. How
Yeah.
often are we still playing at half six on a fourth day? Very, very rarely.
We did have a couple
Much
of
much better idea to go back to 3 days. Then we could have 16 county championship days of 3 days each.
Yeah, if you ever
For
wanna-
the same as 12 4-day games.
Make it 5 points for the draw as well.
Any talk on the
Yeah.
schedule, if you ask me, half the test matches aren't 5 days anyway, so we'll see how much cricket we're playing, but they're normally on the golf course relaxing or having a day off on days 4 and 5 anyway. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
about 5 points for the draw as well. Oh, hour and 5 minutes. Are we done, guys? Any more for any more?
I think that's. Has George Thomas signed a new contract this week?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I say new contract, contract.
I like George Thomas, yeah.
Yeah,
Right, that's nice.
shame we weren't fit for the Royal London this year. Yeah, 2024 he's signed to. Right. Should we knock it on the head then?
Yep,
Good stuff. Golden Apples next week.
right, sure are.
I'll send out the categories in case you've forgotten. And we'll,
Which I have.
Well, you're defending your brain fade of the year.
No, I'm quite happy to.
Well, you've got,
Is that the goals worthy able?
He superseded.
The goals were the able 100.
No, Gibbo is the incumbent champion of brain fade of the year for calling a win against Hampshire a bit early when we still needed to bat again against 2. But yeah, I'm gonna enforce that he's given to a player this year, Gibbo. So I'll be sparing you any shame from that. But thanks, guys. Good to see you. Good to see you. I should just say to you, listener, me and Harry are kind of sitting uncomfortably close because I've only got one microphone, so we're quite sort of shoulder to shoulder
That's all right,
at a minute. So I might have to nip on eBay and get a new mic. But for Gibbo, Dan, and Harry, I'm Ian Shepherd, and we'll catch you this time next week for the all important Golden Apples. Good night.
Cheers, thanks, chaps.